I never thought I'd ever go to prison. Sometimes things in life don't go to plan, and in an instant, everything you know and love is taken away from you. But it's what we do in the hard times that defines us. My name is Rongo Keene. I am, and I will always be, a warrior. About 2.5 years ago, I was involved in an incident at a kebab shop. Me and a good mate of mine were out and decided to get something to eat on the way home. While in the kebab shop, there was a group of maybe 8 to 10 people in the corner, disturbing everybody, abusing everybody, jumping up and down on tables, making a big scene. We didn't think too much on it until they started racially abusing a girl for no reason. Then out of nowhere, the girl was attacked, pulled to the ground, and was being beaten on the ground. Everyone in the kebab shop just watched, no one did anything, so I decided to stop this, which I did. I pulled the person off the girl and stood over her to protect her, and asked members of their group to take the person and leave, which they thought was a joke. Two guys have approached me from the group, started racially abusing me, and we've started fighting. Probably 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from the Kalgoorlie Police Department to go down to the police station. I don't know what it's for. There I'm charged with assault, occasionally bodily harm. Apparently one of the 2 guys that I was fighting was injured. 2 weeks after that, I got a phone call from the police saying that my charge was upgraded. The guy was injured, I think he had a fractured jaw. The last thing I wanted to do was for anyone to be hurt. All I was trying to do was stop a situation, and in doing that, I've got myself into some trouble. 2 years we were in and out of court, and they finally set a court date for me to be sentenced, which was the 13th of March. I turned up to court, stood before the judge, and the prosecution made me out to be a bull in a china shop, is what they described me as, and they highlighted because I was Australia's strongest man that I could have done some serious damage to everybody around me, and I was sentenced that day. I was sentenced to 10 months in prison for assaulting a person, and my life changed from there. What really gets me is no one else that night was charged. The girl that was attacked actually left town not long after that incident, and actually left town and moved back to New Zealand. And the person that attacked her was never charged. I was the only person that night that was charged with anything. 2 years was an ongoing battle in the courts trying to sort everything out. But they had painted this picture of me that I was just an animal, which I'm not. Anyone that knows me knows that I'm not a violent person. It didn't hit me until I was put into my cell. Then my world came crashing down on me. One thing about prison, I think honestly the baddest thing about prison is the amount of time you have to think, the amount of hours upon hours you're locked into your room, and everything goes through your head. You start replaying things in your head, and I think that's the most dangerous thing about prison, is the time you're alone and the time you get to think on things. my world came crashing down quick, fast. I still remember my first night in. It was probably the longest night of my life. The first thing that hit me was my family. I said goodbye to my kids on the Sunday, knowing I was going to court on the Monday, thinking I was going to see them in a few days. And I sat in my cell, not knowing when I was going to see them or if I was going to see them anytime soon. And that really broke me, because when I had my first child, Zion, I made a promise to myself that I would never be anything like my real father, because my real father wasn't the best role model at all. Things I'd seen when I was really young before I was adopted, no kid should have ever seen or experienced. So I made it my goal to be nothing like him and do the best for my kids. And anyone that knows me knows that my kids see everything to me. So when this happened, I felt I'd let them down as a father, and I couldn't look at myself in the mirror because all I saw was my father. So it really tore me apart, that I'd let my kids down and not knowing when I was going to see them, but at the same time not knowing how they were going to react to it all, because I was in their lives every day, all day, every day, and that was all taken from me. Then my partner, my wife Ange, I remember her face when I was sentenced, and it's not a good thing to see someone go through that, and the amount of pressure I put on her with me going in, still to this day I still can't believe she dealt with it all. She now had to take the slack of what I had left behind. She now had to look after our family, and she lived in the Gold Coast in Queensland, so I wasn't just down the road, I was on the other side of Australia. So she now had to take on life without me and look after the boys.
Before the sentencing even happened, I kind of knew jail was on the cards. So I'd mentally prepared myself sitting there that was big possibility. And sitting in there, it just was my head was just what am I going to do, the kids, the business, I just was getting myself mentally ready, because I kind of already knew in a way that I was going to walk out alone. First thing that they said to me was, "Where's Daddo?" And I just mentally was not prepared for that, for them to hit me like that. I hadn't comprehended it myself, so what was I going to say to them? So initially I said that he was at work, and when I got home I decided that I wasn't going to lie to them, so I told them the truth.
And as a man, that's the last thing you want anyone to take on. As a man of the house, you're supposed to look after everything and take care of everything. And I dropped this all on her, and it broke my heart to know what I'd done to her.
It was really hard, because those two are soulmates. They're together all the time. So for them to be apart, I don't know, people realise what kind of family man Rongo is. They're saying he's a good dad, but he just is. He's just always there. He does the school drops, the pickups. He's hands-on with bath times. It was just, and anyone that knows Rongo knows his bigger-than-life personality, and to have that taken away, you can just imagine how quiet and empty the house was without him. So it was really hard to adjust to that, and only having 10-minute phone calls, limited to that, and it was devastating.
And at times during my sentence, it got really rough, to the point where we were fighting, we were arguing, to the point where we almost broke up because of it all. And she had every right to be angry, because there was no one else that put us in the situation but myself. And that was a hard thing to take on the chin, you know, is that I had no one else to blame but myself for what has happened. She no longer, she didn't only have to look after our family, but she now had to look after our business. And all the stress up that she had to take on, you know, wasn't fair to her at all. And I couldn't do anything about it because I was locked up, had minimum contact with anyone. On top of all that stress, then I finally remembered the Arnolds. I was sentenced on the 13th of March, and my first pro card was on, I think it was the 16th of March, 3 days later. Leading up to the court case and everything, you know, my mind was somewhere else, you know. I was so caught up in everything that I did my best for Arnold's, but I didn't think too much on it because there was more at stake. I knew I had to go to court and I knew there was a risk I could go to prison. But sitting in my cell thinking everything over, Arnold's came down on me hard. I'd spent 4 years of my life training for this moment, and in an instant it was taken away. 4 years of long, hard hours in the gym, time away from my family, and it was taken. And I had no one else to blame but myself.
Last of the day, we have the current world's strongest man, 440 kilos, ladies and gentlemen, Brian Shaw.
So, the Arnold show, the world's strongest man was going to be there, Brian Shaw. When I first started my strongman career, I set a goal to compete against the best in the world, to go up against the best in the world, and this was my chance. 4 years of hard work, and it was finally time for me to step onto the stage. Not only Brian Shaw was there, but there were two other athletes that were going to be there, Matthew Ragg and Colin Wolf. 3 Kiwis we were, the 3 Kiwi boys. And we were finally going to go head to head to see who was going to be number one. And it's a shame I didn't make it. It's a shame what happened, because it was going to be a good competition. I know that for a fact. And I know I was going to turn up in my best shape, and I was ready to go head to head with these guys. I got nothing but respect for those two gentlemen because they've been in the strongman game for a while now too, and it was honestly privileged just to be standing next to them, to compete next to them. Not only that, but against all of the pro athletes that were going to be there. But it was going to be a tick in one of my boxes again of achieving something. And throughout my whole strongman career, I've set goals and I've achieved them. And that was going to be another tick in one of my boxes as I move towards my goal. At the time, my family was number one priority. My main concern was my family. And then when I got to Arnold's, it hurt. It hurt a lot because I was ready, but at the same time too, I'd worked hard all these years for it. And I found myself sitting in my room, thinking about it, thinking on it, and there was nothing I could do about it. I never told my coach Warwick about the court case because I didn't want him to slack off on me or take it easy on me. I didn't want that to be an excuse. I think I only told him 2 days before the court case, probably our last training session. I told him what was going on and how I was feeling.
He told me the actual story and what had happened, and obviously my understanding straight away was why his mind was drifting a bit. I mean, that sort of thing on your head, on your mind before you go into a big comp, it's not good. He got off his chest to me. It helped his training, and he was in a position that personally, as a former athlete and as a coach, I had no doubt he was going to be the #1 finishing Australian at the Arnold, even with this over his head. We had him packed ready to go. I knew what was happening, and unfortunately, that night before when he gave me the phone call and said he won't be there, absolute heartbreak for both of us.
And I think it was at that moment that he said to me, I wonder why some days you were here and some days you weren't. It's a mental thing, one thing to prepare yourself for a competition, but to have that on your shoulders thinking, this could all go south where I could be sent away. And I didn't want him to back off on me, and I didn't want him to feel sorry for me, because in the gym I found it was my place where I could break away from it all, and I could free my mind from all the stress of it. And this was a happy place for me.
I mean, straight up, despite all the training we had done together and getting him ready, my initial thought was with the family. It's as a family man myself, doesn't matter what you do in life, your family always comes first. So, the initial thought was, I hope his family's going to be alright. And obviously, my heart and feelings went up for all of them. And from the start, I always said, whatever they need, I'm there to help them. The strongman stuff came second. But I know it hit him hard. I know in his own mind he knew what he wanted to do, and I was 100% confident that he was in the right shape going into that Arnold to have been the #1 Aussie. And there's some big guys there, and the internationals. But he, as I said before, he reminds me of myself training. He just puts in the yards and does what he has to do to be at the top.
I think when I did tell him, he was shocked. I think he was more shocked about it all and how it all happened and stuff like that. And I think honestly I didn't really tell too many people about it. Not many people knew about it at all. And remembering this was going on for about 2 years. But my lead up trainings, everything like that for the comp was probably the best prep I've had in my strongman career. My mind was all over the place, but my body was strong. Me and Warwick trained for about 6 weeks, and in that 6 weeks, I was ready. I was ready to go to that competition, and I was ready to go there and put my mark on the sport, leave my name on the sport. So my goal was when I left there, everyone would know who I was, and I know that I was going there to do the best I could. And it didn't matter if I came last in my head, because I know I was going there with my best foot forward. But I know in my heart that I was ready. Probably the best I've ever been. And every comp leading up to that, I always put my best foot forward. I always did the work in the gym, and I always got myself ready. But I know for a fact I was the strongest I'd ever been. And I was ready to take on anyone. So I reckon it took me about a week to get myself out of the hole. I fell into a state of depression. I say that strongly because there were sometimes I wouldn't leave my room and stuff like that, because the thought of me losing my family, the thought of me, nearly losing my relationship, my business, and losing the chance to compete at Arnold's, it came down on me so much. So it took me about a week to get my mind right. And when I did, I decided that I was going to make the best of the situation. I was going to turn this negative situation into a positive, and I was going to do what I'm really good at doing, which was train. So I decided I was going to turn my body and my mind into a machine to pass time and to get me through it. And that's what I did. I started training in the prison. In prison, there's no gyms at all, and the prison I was at, Eastern Goldfields Prison, all it had was a basketball court, and behind the basketball court, all it had was a pull-up bar and a sit-up chair. Pretty much nothing. But in my mind and in my heart, I knew that if I was going to continue my dream and of being a strongman, that I had to do what I had to do, and I had to make do with what I had, and I did it. I came up with workouts inside my head, and I came up with ways to train that would keep my body in shape, and it worked. Everyone at the start thought I was crazy, watching me, what I was doing, but within a few weeks, I had about 5 guys training with me. I'd train 3 times a day. I'd get unlocked at 7 in the morning. I'd go straight out to the yard, and I'd do circuits. I'd do CrossFit circuits with a couple of the boys, and I can honestly say the training I did inside prison was probably more intense than the training I've done outside, only because the training I did inside prison was totally different to what I'm used to. I was doing movements that I hadn't done before, but at the same time I was doing movements to fix my body. Not many people know, but I had a few sore injuries from all the lifting over the years. So I decided I was going to fix my injuries, and I was going to condition my body and get it into the best shape that I've ever been. So I'd get let out in the morning, and I'd do a circuit. Then we'll get locked up for lunch, and I'd get out after lunch, and I'd do boxing and jiu-jitsu with the boys. And then at 4 o'clock every day, I would lift. Now, when I mean lift, I would lift. So all we had in the yard was a pull-up bar. So I came up with my own workouts just from what I had. So on leg day, I would stand under the pull-up bar, and I would get 2 guys to stand on each shoulder, and I would squat as many times as I could with those boys on my shoulder. When I got confident lifting those guys, I would ask 2 more guys that were heavier to jump on my shoulders, and I would squat with them. That was my leg day. I would sit on the edge of a table, and I'd do leg curls with a towel around my leg, and one of the boys would hold the towel under the table and do my quads. On press day, I would put a seat under the pull-up bar, and I'd sit on the seat, and a guy would climb up my shoulders, and he would stand in my hands, and I'd press him as he was holding onto the monkey bar, and I'd press him as much times as I could. Same thing when he got light, then I'd get someone who was heavier and he would do it. I'd lie on the floor under the monkey bar on my back, and I'd get the broomstick from our room, and I'd hold it in my hand, and a guy would stand on my knuckles, hold onto the monkey bar, and I'd press him as many times as I could. These are ideas I came up with in my head, and they worked. For back day, we had a couch in our living room. I would take the sheet off my bed, and I would ask boys to sit on the couch, and I'd deadlift the couch with them. And if I wanted more weight, I'd ask another guy to come and jump on the couch so it would become heavier. And that's how I trained my back. In my mind, there was no reason why I couldn't train. There was no reason why I couldn't do it. I just had to open my mind up and come up with ways to train, and it worked. It worked very well. With me training 3 times a day, I achieved my goal of turning my mind and my body into a machine. I still did my workout movements that I needed to do, but most importantly, I fixed all my injuries, and I was conditioned. When I was sent to prison, I was 151 kilos. When I walked out of prison, I was 130 kilos. Fitter than I've ever been, and I'd fixed all my injuries. Being Australia's strongest man always puts a target on you. Walking into prison and being the biggest guy walking in there, that's definitely going to turn some heads. I think it just comes with it, you know what I mean? Walking into a prison, everyone being told that you're Australia's strongest man and being the size I was, it definitely turned some heads. Prison is prison, you know. It is what it is. You've got to do your time, and you've got to do what has to be done. And I'm very lucky that I have a great personality. I believe I do, you know, and I can mingle and get along with people no matter what the situation. You know, I made some good friends in there and met some real people. I say real people because a lot of people in there have done bad things, but at the same time too, a lot of people in there have fixed themselves and healed themselves through their experience. So It was hard, but you learn to adapt and you learn to move on. At one point there, I was so low that, you know, I didn't feel anyone was there around me but my family. And it is a hard thing to take on the chin when you're in there by yourself and you don't know what's going on outside and you don't know how your family is or if they're okay. So I was definitely at the bottom of the pit, I like to call it. I hit rock bottom for the first time in my life, and it was honestly the hardest thing that I ever experienced. And I don't want anyone to experience that. Time moves so slow in prison. Every day you count, every hour you count. So when you're given a sentence, you serve that sentence. And when I was told that there could be a chance that I could be released, you know, the feeling of hope came through, you know, that I was ready to go back to my family and look after my family. So when you're given a chance of hope that, you know, I could get out earlier, it definitely helps you move on and move forward with everything. I always had motivation. After the week it took me to get out of the hole, I was motivated. I was motivated to train to keep my mind and my body focused, but also motivated to know that I was getting out no matter what, and I was going to do everything I could to get out. Right. So motivation was always there because my family was my motivation to get out, to look after them. It was weird because I had imagined it the whole time I was inside, you know, walking out the front, seeing my family. But when it actually happened, I was speechless, you know, to even feel free to go away from locked doors or being escorted everywhere, to walk out the front door and see my family was a feeling I can't describe. It was just, I was home, you know, I was ready to be home.
I was just so happy for the kids, like out of everyone, I think that like, I was just so happy for them because I felt like they'd suffered the most really, and I was just happy, and I was happy for them, all of us, to be, you know, a family.
Well, we've been counting down the days when we come home. So no, it was amazing. So no, and I don't know, I think this whole thing has pushed him to work even harder.
So it was Friday, he called me, and Monday I was coming home. So for me, I was sitting at work, and I was pretty pumped. Like, you know, the boys at work said, "What's happening?" So, mate, he's coming out, he's coming home. Like, you know, so really exciting feeling. You know, it wasn't from thinking that he was going to be there in that maximum security for a week to coming home just like that, and I was so excited.
It's a bit, at the start it was a bit awkward because I was institutionalised, you know, I was used to routine, I was used to being locked in my room at a certain time, I was used to certain things happening. So coming back to the real world, it's been a bit hard adjusting back. You know, simple little things that people take for granted, like hugging your kids or jumping in the car and going for a ride, you know what I mean? It's just getting back to everyday life that I'm adjusting to again. But the most important thing though is that I'm with my family. I think when I finally got back to Gold Coast, you know, and I see my kids, you know, that hit me hard because I hadn't seen them for so long, and for them to know that I was home, that they were safe again, that was everything to me. I probably didn't come into the gym for like a day. I wasn't ready to step back into the gym, or I wasn't ready to see that side of my life. Wow. My bag's still sitting on the floor. That's still got all my gears packed in it for Arnold's.
I was supposed to fly back, pick that up, and make my way to the Arnold's comp. And as you can see, it's still sitting on the floor. Didn't quite make it. A lot of memories in here, you know. Sort of forgot what I actually had in here. My partner left it exactly how I left it. No one's been in here since I've been away.
While I was in prison, I put myself away from the warrior. I say that as in I blanked that side of me out and focused on myself personally and looked at myself personally. And when I was released, I wasn't ready to walk into the gym yet. My main focus was to be home with my family. When I did walk into the gym for the first time, I then remembered what I had done and what I had achieved in my strongman sport. While I was in prison, I forgot about it all. I took my mind away from it all. But when I walked back in here, I remembered everything that I had done. And it was weird. My gym bag was still sitting on the ground exactly where I left it, ready, packed to go to Arnold's. Everything was still sitting exactly how I left it. I think there was still blood on the floor from my last training session I did with my coach. So it's been a bit weird coming back in here, but every time I come back in, I appreciate it and I remember what I achieved and what I done. And it's humbling, very humbling. I was released from Eastern Goldfields prison 2 days ago. I'm out on parole to finish my sentence. Pretty much, I'm not allowed to do anything pretty much. I just got to keep my head down, and that's fine with me. My number one goal at the moment is to look after my family and give the time back to them that they lost, that we lost. As for my strongman career, nothing changes. My goal and my dream is still there. I did the hard work in prison training to get my mind and my body physically and mentally strong, so when I do step back onto the platform, I'll be in the best condition I've ever been to move on with my career. I'm very lucky that I have some amazing people around me that have helped me and my family through this situation. And with the mentality I have now and the focus I have now, you know, nothing is impossible and nothing's ever been impossible. But I know for a fact that in the future, my goal and my dream will become reality. And life is crazy, you know, things happen in life and you experience things that happen, but you just got to get back on the horse, as they say, and just move on with life. And that's what I've done. This has probably been the hardest thing I've ever experienced in my life, for me and my family. But it doesn't change anything. You get back up and you move on. And that's exactly what I'm doing. So it's back to the drawing board, mate. Spend some time with my family. And then when I do step back into this gym, we're full steam ahead. And I am gonna do what I set out to do. I know I am. Just because I missed out on my Arnold Pro card, it doesn't matter. If I have to start again at the bottom and make my way up, I'll start at the bottom and do it again. I've done it once, I can do it again. It doesn't matter. I will achieve my goal and compete against them and compete against the world's strongest man, because I'm willing to do the time to do it. And like I said, I've done it before, and I've done it before with no one out of the shed, with just me and my kids. But now I've got a good coach, I've got good people around me, and it won't be long. This is not the end of the warrior, this is the start of the warrior. Everyone's seen the rise of the warrior, everyone's seen the fall of the warrior, but I tell you right now, wait for the return of the warrior.